you're gonna have to pay for the Mac Studio screen. This is not widely talked about, but I think this is a huge issue, or just Apple's way of saying, look, you really need to buy our things to get it work properly, which means this is gonna cost you extra $1,500 or $1,500, $1,600, something like that. This is a little bit of an issue for me, and that's why I realized, oh, that's why my workflow doesn't work. This is my full review and conclusion of the Mac Studio. I've made a whole series of videos exploring and testing different parts of this in video editing, benchmarks, putting it across different benchmarks and then testing it against some other PCs. But here I am now, and then I've made up my mind, conclusion of everything that I have experienced. So you as a Windows or PC user might be tempted to look at the Mac Studio and you might be thinking, do you know what, is it really worth it for me? Should I switch to it if I'm already doing video, photos, some other editing, my workflow is on Windows? Is this the better bang for buck right now, or should I upgrade or build a PC right now? And also, I'm gonna share some very weird quirks or things you need to know that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about when buying this Mac Studio. In fact, I think they are so important that this might actually change your mind how you look at the Mac Studio just because of those little weird different quirks. Let's go. Hey, thumbs off the screen. This video is sponsored by Adorama, the family-run business since 1974 with the #1 focus on customer satisfaction. When shopping online for your creator tools, I highly recommend checking out Adorama and the huge stock of electronics. Whatever you're looking for, most likely they've got it. Computers and components, GPUs, yes, GPUs, photo and video and studio equipment, and much more. Why not save some money and buy high-quality used gear, or trade in your old gear for a deep discount on your new purchase? And don't forget to check out the deal of the day section for killer deals on many products. Check out Adorama's store in the description below. I'm gonna explore a lot of different areas of this Mac Studio. And then I'm gonna finish with who is this for, some of the very good use cases, and should you be switching? But very importantly, if you are an Apple user, please do let me know in the comment section below if you might have some solutions or some comments of some of the problems and some of the good sides you have heard me say in this video. So please let me know in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. In this channel and in my personal workflow, we use mostly Windows PCs and Windows kind of oriented things. But at the same time, I have always used MacBooks or MacBook Pros for my laptops for like 10-15 years now. So I do use both the systems, and I've always had a soft spot for Apple just because of how the products look like, and the marketing is very, very clever and very awesome. So I'm always thinking, is Mac the better option than the Windows PC I'm using at the moment? So first aspect we're going to be looking at is the performance. How good is it? Like, does it perform good? And I have very mixed feelings in this section. Just because on one hand, this is the fastest Mac possible in the world. The M1 Ultra chip with the 64-core GPU is the fastest Mac you can get, no matter like which way you really look at it. I think this beats the Mac Pro in every single possible way. But then on the other hand, this is absolutely not what Apple advertised it to be. And it's not as fast as Apple advertised it to be. In fact, some of the things that Apple said on the keynote when launching this, I don't think are true at all, or at best are very, very deceiving. So then the M1 Ultra GPU is not at all as good as RTX 3090.
You're goddamn right.
It might perform like better in some kind of weird performance per watt kind of cherry-picked scale of things. Exactly in that point we're performing better than the RTX 3090. Have a look at my video of this where I'm going more in detail, but in short, there isn't a benchmark that I can figure out how did Apple actually perform this test. There's no way of knowing how did the RTX 3090 got beat with this M1 Ultra. So in 3D rendering, even the RTX 3050 is actually better than this M1 Ultra GPU inside there with the 64, cores. When talking about the GPU, Apple advertised on the keynote when launching this that it's gonna pull roughly around 120 watt or something like that on the GPU.
M1 Ultra provides industry-leading desktop.
But the thing is, not a single retail unit of this M1 Ultra chip can utilize or actually perform with 120 watts pulled from the socket or actually being pushed through the chip. So Apple is either lying,
excuse me,
about some of their benchmarks, which I don't think they can do really. It's just very deceiving, marketing, because, there's lots of lawyers who make sure that no one's lying about this. But to us as end users or consumers, it does feel a bit like lying. Or it's not possible to actually achieve that on this M1 Ultra chip, or they handicapped this, which I think this is most likely what they're gonna do, because whatever the next product is gonna come out, they might have needed the next product to look a little bit better against this M1 Ultra or something like that. It's just a big question mark for me. Why do you say this is that, where in reality, actual use case, it's not like that? If you're wondering how good the GPU is, I highly recommend you go check out my DaVinci Resolve editing performance, where we actually found very simple thing that when you have this selected on this Mac Studio, the M1 Ultra, literally it can't do anything. In CPU performance though, it's very, very good. Like it's 20 core CPU, it's an ARM architecture, and if you put it against like the 12900K from Intel, for example, performance per watt is absolutely ridiculous on this, and this is where it really, really shines. Performance per watt on the CPU is, I think, probably unbeatable what you can get out there. Obviously, the 12900K in a lot of ways is better, depending what you do. But then at the same time, this is absolutely amazing in there. So CPU performance, I'm very happy, especially apps and things that can utilize the ARM architecture and are very well optimized for this. There's nothing like it, and it's completely silent. Video editing is really unbeatable with the Final Cut Pro and DaVinci Resolve. Unless you use certain effects on DaVinci Resolve, then it's not really doing a very good job. But the thing is, I think as a video editor or someone who's a creative and really working professionally, like let's say the highest level of things, I'd love to know how many of you are willing to switch your workflow just because a tool will do it better for you. I bet you $100 that if you are the highest level creator working every single day on a high-end, I don't know, movie production, you're not going to say to your producer, can we get the Final Cut now, because the Mac Studio is really good at this. They're just going to say, no chance, this is going to interrupt our workflow, our timeline of things. This is not going to happen. So if you're already working on Final Cut or DaVinci Resolve, this is a ridiculous upgrade for you. But at the same time, the M1 Max chip isn't far below it, so the M1 Ultra really doesn't make a lot of sense for you. I'd highly recommend you go with the M1 Max chip, because literally there is no video editing performance difference in like 90% of the cases there. And if you're wondering how does it do with Adobe Premiere Pro, then even that is working really, really well on this, and you're gonna have a good experience if you're a Premiere Pro user and you already are on a Mac and you're looking for an upgrade to get something good in a Mac ecosystem. Now, if you're on a Windows ecosystem, just stay with me in a moment, watch till the end of the video. But at the same time, if you do compare similar priced PC with this, then the actual workflow difference isn't much different in terms of performance. There are some things that PC would be better at and some things that this would be better at, but let's say generally you're not going to be miles ahead with this Mac Studio with M1 Ultra compared to like a similar priced workstation PC with the latest components available. Next of all, design. This is something that I always have a soft spot for. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous, and I wish we could get something similar with like, you know, PC world of things, because a lot of PC things look a lot of gamery or blingy and, you know, blangy, whatever that means. But Apple products look very, very slick, like minimalistic design. So as a creative, I just enjoy this a lot. I appreciate the design. I think it's a fantastic looking and designed product. The only thing about the design I would say is that I wish there was a headphone jack in the front as well, because to me it doesn't make a sense that the headphone jack is in the back. If you are a user who's not very techy, you're gonna love this thing, okay? This is what Apple does really, really well, and If you are especially in the Apple ecosystem, or maybe perhaps someone who just wants plug and play, I don't think there's anything like that on the market. Buy all Apple stuff and you're gonna have a great time. Not a lot of setup, not a lot of things. It's very much like done for you, and a lot of options or boxes have already been ticked by Apple because they say that they know better. That's like a thing. If you like that, it's absolutely fantastic. If you do hate that part and where some things are chosen for you, or say to you that, look, this is a better way of using these things or our tools, then this might not be the best option for you. At the same time, if you are coming from Windows, this is like a personal preference. You might be missing some things, you might be finding that some things are a bit annoying, or a little bit different. I personally do feel like I'm slower in there. There's some things that I just can't quite figure out why they're working like this. For example, one cool thing on Windows, what happens is that when you've got two windows open side by side, if you hover your mouse over to the other side, you can literally scroll there without clicking on it, once to activate the kind of browser, for example. You can scroll it, or for example, press play or pause on the video while the other browser is open. But on Mac, if you have done something like a spreadsheet, that's often what I'm doing, like spreadsheet, putting some things down while the video is there, I'm doing some research, then I'll have to hover over to that window, activate the window, like highlight the window, and then press pause and play, which to me is like, oh, come on. I don't know why this is happening. I'm using Chrome, by the way. Is there a solution for that? I'd love to know from you in the comment section below. When we're talking about good sides, video and photo editing is very, very good with this. And I think that's the case for like 90% of the people. If you buy this, you're gonna have a very good video editing experience. Now, I'm not talking about compared to something, but it will be very, very good. It's also very good at converting videos and playing them back on the timeline. If you are using especially ProRes or H.264 and 5 codecs, then the media engines inside are unbeatable at the moment, until Intel comes out with their Arc and media engines. Come on, Intel, hurry up. It's a very silent operation. You can't really hear it. You can hammer it, but it will still be very, very quiet. Before I can tell you the awesome use cases, I really do want to talk about some of the downsides, or some things that you really need to think about or know before buying this, especially if you've previously been using Windows, for example, because if you're already in the Apple ecosystem, then some of these might not apply to you. First of all, one of the things is storage upgrade. As soon as you're going to get it, especially as a video editor or content creator who deals with large files, you're going to be faced with a problem. How do I store my files? Where do I get more storage from? Is it going to be NAS? Is it going to be external hard drives? Is it going to be externally? No matter what you do, you can't match the speed, not even near what Apple advertises the internal SSD is there. So internal SSD that's inside can go up to 7.4 gigabytes per second, but you do have to have like a little bit of a higher capacity drive in order to hit that. So some of the lower ones, like 1 terabyte and lower ones, will not hit that. So then when you go with like Thunderbolt NAS or Thunderbolt external devices, like whether it's like a USB 4 external SSD here, NVMe enclosure, or some SATA or some USB-C, 3.2, like a 10 gigabit speeds, you're going to be getting a maximum. What you can get is like about 3,000 megabytes per second, which is nowhere near what you could get internally. On Windows side, if you already know, it's very easy to get close to 7,000 megabytes per second SSDs. Just pop another one in, boom, you can get it. A bigger one, pop it in, no problem. In here, this is not the case. So the storage upgrade is going to be a little bit more expensive if you want to get something like Thunderbolt enclosure that's NVMe, compatible inside, or if you get a NAS, that's going to be super expensive. But at the same time, I do understand that some people already have a NAS, already have a workflow situation, then you don't need to worry about that. But at the same time, if you do want to adopt this into your workflow, then wow, that's going to be a big problem for you. Now, I do understand that 3,000 megabytes per second might not be a bottleneck for a lot of the people. Basically, what I'm paying per terabyte of storage is going to be much cheaper on the Windows side of things. And also, if that storage is going to fail, boom, your whole thing is going to go back, and that's it. It's not going to be like, oh, let's pop this storage off, put another one in. It's not user serviceable. And there's no upgrade paths. Really, if you want to get better performance in a few years' time, the only upgrade path you can hope for is some software updates that are better utilized for this ARM M1 chip. And just to underline the serviceability again, if something happens with this, most likely you're going to send it off to Apple, and I don't know how long this is going to take. Just my personal experience, I recently dropped one of the PC side classes while I was writing on the MacBook Pro that I had, and I absolutely smashed the screen and panel behind. So the screen is gone. The laptop works, but just the screen is gone. It's 2019 model. And when I went to the Apple, they said it's going to cost me between 500 and 600 quid to repair. Oh, the laptop's not worth that right now. If this is going to happen to me with this Mac Studio, wow, I don't want to know the repair bill for this, because you're probably better off getting Apple Care. But still, it's a bit of a question mark for me. Now, the big thing that you haven't seen a lot talked about, I do want to give credit to one guy called Hunter King. Go check out his video. He explains it very well. He's done a whole video about it. But in short, what I experienced as well and finally figured out what the problem is the Apple scaling is ridiculous. So here's what I mean. If you think I'm gonna get this Mac Studio, and look, I don't have to pay for the studio display, and I can get something like a 4K screen that's like a third of the price, like maybe $400, $300 or something like that. 27-inch, Asus ProArt 4K display or something like that, $500, something like that. This is gonna be a very, very bad choice if you're gonna do that. Here's the thing, because Apple scaling works best at 110 ppi or double that, which is 220 ppi. Which is why Apple screens all have like a random resolution, or not standard what you usually see, in the world. So that's why the 27-inch display is 5K resolution, not 4K resolution, and the 32-inch, XDR display is a 6K resolution screen. If you don't have that and you have 27-inch, let's say, or me, I had a 32-inch 4K display there, because the scaling doesn't properly work nicely for you. You have either very big text that looks like, like grandma's iPhone, or you have tiny text that you have to take a magnifying glass out. What you have to do is you adjust the scaling to like, oh, I can see it properly. What happens is Apple on GPU scales the video up to 5K, from 4K to 5K, and then downscales it to 1440p, because now we have a perfect scaling of 110 ppi or something like that. Now it's gonna do that with the refresh rate. So if you got a 60 hertz display, it's gonna do that 60 times in a second. And if I'm doing video editing, it's literally not possible. I'm pressing play on 1080p video playback and it's gonna go, it's ridiculous actual performance hit when you have that. So if you get the Mac Studio, be ready to either not have 4K and have 27-inch 1440p monitor, then there's no problem, or you're gonna have to pay for the Mac Studio screen. This is not widely talked about, but I think this is a huge issue, or just Apple's way of saying, look, you really need to buy our things to get it work properly, which means this is going to cost you extra $1,500 or $1,500, $1,600, something like that. This is a little bit of an issue for me, and that's why I realized, oh, that's why my workflow doesn't work. Another downside, which we mentioned a little bit in the performance section, is Apple's just literally limiting or somehow not allowing, we don't know why, if it's some kind of a physical thing, but at the same time, we know it's possible because Apple did show it on their keynote that you can get this to run at 120 watts or something like that. The CPU is going to be this fast and so on, but in reality, it's absolutely handicapped. It could be pushed so much more wattage through there. It could be so much more powerful. The cooling is amazing in this. It's like hardly hit 60 degrees. It's hard to get it past 60 degrees. And that's when you're rendering like CPU and GPU at the same time and doing 100 million things. So the cooling is there, but why aren't we getting the actual performance that the M1 Ultra chip should be capable of? Question mark. I don't know. I just think to pay that much, I'd like the full performance, please. Thank you. Another downside for this Mac Studio is the price tag. You might be thinking, look, this is $5,000, but this is gonna beat out all the PCs that I can get for $5,000, right? And in some ways it could be true. and it might be even more true with some of the M1 Max, you know, options over there. But the thing is, to actually get it working on your workflow, you're gonna have to have some extra budget to get a few things. Like as a creator, if you're actually working on things, some of the things might not be expensive, but it does add up, because slowly you realize, oh, I need this as well, I need this as well, I need this as well. Apple keyboards, like if you do want to get the Touch ID, it's only available on Apple keyboards. If you want to get the best screen resolution or the screen actually performance and the look, you're gonna have to buy Apple stuff. If you want to get some extra hubs or things or USB ports, be ready to use some hubs or actual you know, Thunderbolt docks to get it working. You want 2 displays to work with you, get either expensive USB-C to HDMI cable or USB Thunderbolt cable to put onto your monitor, or make sure that your monitor has it. It might not have it, then you might have to buy Thunderbolt dock, which is also a few $100 to get like a CalDigit or some kind of good Anker, you know, Thunderbolt dock. It's all going to start to add up, and very soon you realize, whoa, to make this work really in my workflow, plus all the storage and other stuff, it's going to be much more expensive than what you get. At the same time, if you do look at the PC side of things, if you get the PC, you're ready to go. You've got plenty of ports, you've got upgradability and more storage, yeah, no problem. And last downside, even though the ARM optimization is going very well and a lot of software is already optimized to it, I do think there is some quirks that haven't quite been ironed out yet, because some plugins and things might not work for this, or some things you'll find, oh, that's not working for ARM. So before you buy this, make sure that whatever you're doing does have support for M1 silicon. Now the special use cases for this. I think this could work perfectly, which if I can't sell this one, then I'll probably have to keep it for that. An ingest and render machine that's connected to maybe your NAS or something like that, where you can connect to it remotely and render videos or render proxies or ingest videos to your NAS, just because it already has the, you know, SD card slot, and you can easily have like a, you know, card reader on the side that it can do. Just because it does it so silently, it can be literally next to you while rendering 8K video, and it does it very fast, and it's very, very power efficient, which means that if you are in a place where maybe electricity cost is very expensive, then this might make a lot of sense for you. But then I do think I would rather go with the M1 Max version rather than the M1 Ultra, just because the Ultra is so much more expensive, but you're not gonna get the like linear performance. The performance is pretty much like slightly more faster on the Ultra compared to the Max. So if you do want to get it for that purpose, go with M1 Max version of this. I'm going to leave some links in the description below if you do want to pick any of these up. Also, in the music studios, I can see this being a very, very hot product, just because it's very silent. You can, you know, put it anywhere and have unbelievable performance, but do make sure that you do have support for the M1 Ultra or, you know, ARM kind of architecture. So who is this Mac Studio for? Mainly this Mac Studio is for creatives who own a previous Mac, and perhaps their workflow is already in the Apple ecosystem and they want an upgrade, even from the Mac Pro. If you're using the Mac Pro from 2019, this is gonna smoke the Mac Pro in pretty much every single way while being so much smaller. So for those people or for those creatives, this is gonna be amazing upgrade for you. Just plug and play, all your stuff gets, you know, transferred over through Time Machine, and you're just flying off, boom, there we go. Just keep doing what you're doing, and it's gonna be just so much faster what you are doing. Now, if you're a Windows user and you're wondering, is this for you? Now, you might be a Windows user and you're sick of certain things and you already want to move. Look, I can't change your mind, and feel free to do it. This is there. But me as a Windows user, and me actually having this here and having an option to use both of these systems, I do find myself actually using Windows more, just because it just works better. My editor is the same thing. We worked on this and we were like, well, our PC is actually better. The one thing that I have found myself doing is actually leaving big like video, like big builds that we've done to render on this, because it's gonna be silent, it can render there quietly, does it in its own tempo, uses very little energy, while we can work on the next video. So I don't quite think that this Mac Studio makes all Windows people want to move over because the performance is going to be so much better. Some things might be, but I do think Windows is just right up there. And by Windows, I mean, you know, like the latest PC parts, whatever is out there. Yes, they might consume more electricity, but the actual power of them is very much similar. But as a 3D renderer or someone who works with 3D and you're thinking that 64 core GPU is better than 3090, that is not the case at all. Like if you're doing 3D rendering, NVIDIA, any of the RTX cards are going to be a much better pick for you than this one. I would not get this for purely 3D workflow. Now, if you do need some 3D workflow, then it can do it, but it certainly isn't the best for it. So now, in conclusion, all of my thoughts concluded. Is this for me? Perhaps for you who is already on Windows and thinking about switching. I wouldn't get it if you already invested into the Windows ecosystem. I think if you have something from Apple and you've been maybe chucking along on your 2017, 18 iMac and you're thinking, flipping heck, I can't quite get this video editing done, then this is going to be unbelievable upgrade for you because you're already used to the Mac ecosystem. You might have some other things and the cost to getting this might not be that bad, especially if you're a business and you can, you know, just write the VAT off of this or, you know, just put it on your business expenses. It might make a lot of sense for you. But if you are maybe like kind of semi-pro or kind of someone who's running a small business and you still have to think what is going to be the best performance for your money, you're going to be much better off with Windows or PC side of the things and actually not be far off in terms of the performance of the Mac Studio. If you are thinking that the $2,000 or pound version of this Mac Studio with the M1 Max option is going to be so good in performance, it's going to be so much better, what you might find moving is that Apple's going to say, oh, this is not working for you because you haven't purchased our other products yet. In order to get like the best or the actual performance you need for this, you need to buy a lot more of their products, which makes it more expensive. Personally, the biggest thing or biggest letdown for this is Apple's marketing for this. And this is why I actually purchased this, why I wanted to make these videos, because I truly wanted to find out if I am recommending the best bang for buck products for creatives. If you're a creative like me, you're doing some creative work, you're doing events, you're working with clients, is the PC actually a better bang for buck or should I be recommending this? Hearing the Apple keynote live, I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to smoke every single PC. But the truth is, it's not really the case at all, especially the GPU marketing. It's not an RTX 3090. Can we stop saying that this is better than RTX 3090? It isn't. It's some weird cherry-picked lab test that only works in a lab because no one is going to be limiting their RTX 3090 to 320 watts, or no one actually in real world gets the real performance of the M1 Ultra GPU. It's just a random thing to say if it's not the truth. Like, it might be for you in the lab, but us end users, it's not the truth. Anyway, I just feel a little bit betrayed by this marketing. It just feels very, very deceiving to me. Is it really better than the PC? Now, you're waiting for my answer, and whichever way I'm gonna lean here, someone's gonna get offended in the comment section below. Someone's like, oh no, you should be doing that much faster, and Apple sucks. Someone says, no, Windows sucks. Only, true creatives use Apple. No, Apple sucks because their marketing sucks.
I get comments all the time. Blow your nose, man.
Just look at the comment section below. You'll find it all there. All the pool of people will be mixed in there. And here's where I personally stand in this. I expected this to blow my editing workstation out of the water. I expected to put this instead of my workstation on the desk, plug everything in, start editing, start working, maybe a little bit of different OS and UI. I'll get used to it, but the performance is going to be better. But the truth is not that. I found there's lots of different quirks that actually don't quite work in my workflow, or the performance is not going to be better than my, 3-year-old editing PC, which actually is a little bit disappointing to me. So I was faced with a question, do I want to spend even more to get some of the Apple suggested products and accessories to actually unlock or get the full performance what it can do? Or shall I just let go of some of the things that I am using in my workflow that I'm so used to, like a 4K screen? Do I sell that, get a 1440p monitor? Neither of these options really made sense for me, and that's why I'm still sticking with my PC editing station. This is just my personal experience. Call me biased or whatever. I'd love to know from you in the comment section below. And that's it really. Likes, subs, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.